capitalism. All of the gains in automation, it goes to the owner class. All you have to do is have everyone be an owner, and now suddenly any gain in automation is a gain for everybody. If you grow just one thing, it may not grow as well as if it grows with another thing. A good example of that is called the Three Sisters method of farming.
There is definitely multi-apartment buildings or multi-families that do passive design.
$100 million that they gave to Joe Rogan that they would kind of be out if they breach contract. Is that a bigger number? Or is 2 billion a bigger number?
I don't know,
It's
Zach.
a tough one. I
It's
know.
really hard.
And maybe
Yes.
comparing numbers is not Jeremy's strong suit. Gotta go kill a Jenny.
I still don't think you should kill her. I don't think it's a good idea.
It's a ghost, dude. Welcome back, everybody, to Bread Theory. So tonight we're doing another episode of Left Field with Dan Platt of the Three Left Show and What's Left in Albany. How you doing tonight, Dan? Oh, just as you take a drink of water. Perfect timing.
You gotta stay hydrated.
You do.
Gotta stay hydrated. Not bad. I can't say vacations are refreshing for me. They usually feel like a lot more work.
Really?
My usual
That's a shame.
grind. Well, before I left for my week and a half vacation, or more over a week, was I read an article about like that talked about. I guess the algorithm fed it to me because I was going on vacation, and it was about philosophers of the past talking about being a tourist and being anti-tourist, and tourism is a bane on humanity. Why? One philosopher put it as here's the line of thought, and it's more of a thought experiment, but like, well, going on a vacation and traveling somewhere else is about interrupting and doing something different than what you normally do. What you normally do is living your life. So what is a the opposite of your normal life? Being dead.
Yeah,
So
yeah, sure.
traveling somewhere else is almost like trying to prepare yourself for the afterlife or
Okay.
lack of it. Like to not do anything, or to not do your normal life. And
Uh-huh.
when you do visit somewhere else, it's and you're amongst people who are doing their normal life, it's like you're a ghost, right? You're
It
not
is kind of like you're a ghost, you know.
there. Like you can try to participate, but you're, especially if there's a language barrier or anything like that,
That's
which is
true.
how I felt in Montreal. It's like I'm a ghost. I'm like I can't fully participate and interact with people,
Hmm.
um outside of hand signatures and some broken French.
Sure.
At least I know how to pronounce things, but unlike my compatriots that I went with, but whatever, it's not really a bump that far up when I had to be reminded that marsh is store, and other
Oh,
nouns like
yes.
that. So many nouns just slipped out of my head. I'm like, well, what's the noun for this again? So I know like what I'm looking at. And what does the sign say? But otherwise, I enjoyed it. It was a bachelor party, but it was with artsy guys, so went to the nice art museum in Montreal, which is the closest museum I've been to that holds a candle to the Met in New York, the Metropolitan Museum of Art,
Yeah.
with its many wings. And
Well,
like, because the one in Montreal was also five buildings, but instead of being like one large hall with like spider clustered buildings,
sure, sure.
was across a block with five different buildings that are connected underground with tunnels, as
Oh.
in Montreal most things are, since you want to stay out of the cold.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You got those indoor malls, and it was all Jazz Fest too there, which is a very big Jazz Fest all week.
That's
Tons of
really cool.
artists. I watched this woman drummer just kill the drum. She was Spanish, and so on.
Nice. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Unfortunately, we got an Airbnb from like a slumlord, but it was the only thing that could sleep seven people.
Mm.
And,
That is the difficulty with you have that if you have that big of a group, because I mean hotel rooms can get pricey if you have to
because we had
split it up
seven, it
between.
would be have to be more than two rooms,
Right,
and
exactly.
even two rooms would have been a large amount of money. So now when I saved an extra day so I could do more stuff and actually get some food culture in. it's interesting how some of the artsy guys I was with didn't like. I mean, we liked food, but
Hmm.
we weren't like, oh, we got to get crepes. That's got to be something we do. That
See,
was
that would be my number one thing. I
too
love
many of
a
them
good
were
crepe.
saying no. They were more concerned with getting beer. It was all about we have
Beer,
to go
really,
get beer. So we did that like at least twice, and
really.
and so I was annoyed at that because I'm like, we could be getting crepes right now. But no, we got to go to a bodega to get beer.
Oh,
Um,
to
beer that then
bodega
we
beer, huh?
argue about. Well, no, they have good selections. It depends.
Okay.
But then we argue about whether we can drink the beer in public and whether the law is. We didn't do any prep like that.
That's funny.
Or we did, and it's like yeah, it's we can't open carry. That's funny. Open carry, not about guns. Beer.
Not a beer.
Um,
Oh, excuse me. I'm just getting over a sinus thing from the weekend. That's how I spent most of my weekend. Was
ooh, that
sick in
humidity.
bed. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So not
Um,
fun at all.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I know. It's fun. I'm getting over it now. But cough just keeps on lingering.
But I'm thinking to turn things to the political.
Sure.
Um, on my way out to the second vacation thing I did, which was a family outing at a state park in the opposite direction, I had a pretty negative interaction with someone I keep thinking I have a good like rapport with, but I kind of don't, I guess,
Hmm.
because there are people who are working within the hierarchy of the status quo, and they're pretty reformist in all things. And
Sure.
even though they'll have some pretty woke or radical rhetoric about certain things, particularly race or intersectional issues, when it comes to larger economic questions, they are very much towing the Democratic Party line, posting whatever good thing Biden's doing, which to me is not good, but something
Yeah.
that just looks good, which is what I was pointing out about a $9 billion that Biden has put towards rural internet. And I ask, well, who's going to build it? Corporations? We already did this. They didn't build it last time they were given money. Um, and so she does the thing I didn't expect, which was ask in the usual condescending kind of reformist line of, what do you propose? And I'm like, I guess it was bait that I shouldn't have taken. I'm like, well, we act in good faith around each other, not in person that much, but online. Like, of course, we got to act in good faith. I wasn't. I mean, yeah. I suppose I started it by bad mouthing Biden or policy of giving
Oh,
money to
I already gotten
corporations.
her hackles up.
I didn't think she was for that, but she
Yeah.
made it about, well, you're against rural internet. It's how are you against the rural? What mind space was she in? So, but that's the problem with internet comms, right? And so I list the most radical position, which is, well, actually, the first reform is simply allow municipalities by law to build, guarantee the right for municipalities to build internet, which nationally isn't there. And in certain
Really?
states, yeah, in certain states, the telecoms have made sure that municipalities can't build their own internet.
Oh.
They can't replicate Chattanooga. Though
That's horrible.
Chattanooga was a special case, and it's really, we got to find a way. We need to think about how to actually replicate that, because Chattanooga was rebuilding all their infrastructure. That's why it was just a simple decision to make to include public internet. Everywhere else, everything is piecemeal. So, and whenever we get the money from the Fed or the state, which is just all piecemeal, all just crumbs, get your little reward, keep the wheel spinning. And so to imagine something else is of course impractical and naive. And that's the way I was treated by this fellow, this person, a black woman, by the way. But yeah, and that's why I think about, like, these are the people I need to be helping. Like the ideology we follow says we support them or we let them do their thing. They're fighting the fight the way they feel they should do it. But so is Clarence Thomas. And no, it's not all the same. So it gets me thinking. It makes me really uncomfortable because these are the most liberal people in town.
Yeah.
They're not socialists, but they're the people who actually work their way to a position of responsibility at some point.
Hmm.
While most radicals, anarchists, and socialists have no, we don't really, some of us have earned some responsibility, but usually in the nonprofit sector. But that's to me a dead end because you're working with the tools that the last generation created, and we can kind of carry them forward by doing tenant organizing or worker organizing. But I'm a little more negative about it as time goes on because
Yeah.
there's
Absolutely.
there's that kernel in my mind, not a kernel, it's really a blob of we've done all this already. Unionization, coming to accommodation, accepting the management's role, accepting the workplace as it is. This is why anti-work is probably more has more potential for revolutionary struggle, because it's the lumpen proletariat, it's the unemployed or it's the underemployed, where that have the least to lose. Amazon workers, maybe because of the unionization drives, but Amazon is paying 18-20 an hour. That's without a friend of mine's doing it, and it's a good wage for what he's doing. It's mindless, but he's not. His role isn't one of the timed ones. Interestingly,
I mean,
but
that's good.
he's definitely a guy who wants to work for wages as little as possible.
Hmm.
But it's interesting that like Amazon is, and it's why the unionization effort, in part, of course, union busting plays a big part. But in my area, the union drive at the local Amazon branch failed because there were many people where 18 an hour is the best wage in the county,
Hmm.
especially for someone without being a professional of some kind.
So they just didn't believe they could do any better.
Um, it's more like we don't need to do better.
Oh, don't even need to do better.
Or the company convinces them that they got it good. Because it is a lot better than other entry level work. Or hey, or rather because the gig economy is below you. Hey, you actually have a full time job that's actually consistent. You could be working gigs and then rushing from thing to thing.
Oh, yeah.
We have that, and then we have unemployment under that. But that's getting cut more and more each year.
Yeah.
So just to wrap up that Facebook line, I answer like, okay, just make it possible to do municipal internet. That way it can be built with available money, directly fund the, counties and municipalities, and they can build it or hire the companies to build it, because it's not the same companies as the telecoms, that's for sure, because telecoms hire other companies to do that contracts. And nationalize the internet overall as much as possible. And she said, well, we wait for that, and it's always, stop me if you've heard this, it's always seen as like when you have a radical demand, it's taken as the equivalent of waiting for it to happen. Because it's implied or the idea is that it's such magical thinking that it's like the same as praying. Or it's magical.
Interesting.
You're not doing anything, or there's nothing to do to make it happen.
Right. It's just a wish.
While you're waiting, how do the rural folk get internet? Or while you're waiting, how will the rural people have internet? How will they get it? And I racked myself for like 20 minutes on like putting it down, putting the phone down.
Yeah.
And then I answered her to the effect of like, it's more than this, just waiting. It's about knowing what to organize about. And that's all I'm offering at this, that's all I'm offering.
Yeah.
Is what to organize around. You're supposed to be the leader who can organize, bring people together. But if you're bringing them together to pander to corporations because they have the money, that's not empowerment. And it's not going to work long term. and it didn't last century. So it's hard to communicate with that. It's not something you argue. You kind of need a yeah. I mean, I was trying to rack myself about how to have a yes and answer, but
Yeah.
in this case, I just the way she was handling me was just wrong. It's like I can't agree with how you're talking to me. So how can I say yes and? Yes, I'm just waiting. I'm proposing the impossible or the impractical. But of course, this has been the digital divide has been a 15-year problem.
True.
And I guess it was the Republicans' fault all along because they would block any funding. And Biden freed it up somehow. So,
Yeah. Well, there is an organization I think it has two branches. There's one in Minneapolis. It's called the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, and they have been helping rural areas develop internet cooperatives that kind of get around a lot of the regulations. So
that's cool.
that could be another model.
Yeah, I mean, a big. The issue then is to take that particular project and then make it a policy.
Yeah.
Because we can have these little things, but just like with art in the corporate world, like the first project, the first art of an IP is good, it's new, it's fresh. And then by the second or third one, it's now corporate. It's a corporate product, even though it always was. But
Yeah.
I was watching a thing about Assassin's Creed, so it's just like the first when the original project lead left or was fired and his team, it's like Assassin's Creed goes from an experiment to this franchise where now it's about Ubisoft trying to make something that will last 15 years. And then similarly, there's a sort of, and you can go pessimist with this, and we don't want to do that. But like we start our fresh new cooperative, and then in 10 years, once it's established, and then and it's popular, we have our niche. Then in 20 years, it has all the trademarks of a corporation. How do we keep the small is beautiful, but then make that the norm? And that can be done on the policy side and by governance. We need to work out how to do that. And there's sort of municipalist platforms. Shareable has, I think I'll go through, maybe we go through some shareable content. Shareable is a nonprofit that's about building post-capitalism and with community projects, but I think they have a platform for like a shareable city. And a co-op law is part of that. And then like a public bank, so you actually fund all this stuff so that it's on, like the internet is organized by in the small scale, but at least the funding source, which is independent of capitalism, is the one providing the resources. Which on the small business level here in Albany comes in the form of like building improvement grants. It's always in grants, which makes me think it's not really institutionalized unless there's this grant program that's just every year there's going to be this much money that's going to go out, and any business that needs building improvement dollars can get it, and that's covered by the city. It's no,
Yeah.
when you take that off of the enterprises back.
Gotta love the hot rodders that for some
Oh,
reason
yeah.
like my road. For some, I
Mm.
don't know why, but
It's a nice straight open.
it's not though. It's a big curve. So,
Mm.
but still, they go
Yeah,
whipping
that's what's
around
fun
it.
about it.
Yeah, maybe.
All
Anyway,
right, it's
sorry,
past
what were you
8.
saying?
No. Let's move on.
Okay.
I wrapped up my little monologue.
Shall we start with the anti-work video, that one that you just sent me?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's
Come
do
on
that.
about
So we're gonna
that.
get into some ideas of anti-work. Whoops.
Which we may already be familiar with.
Yeah,
It's been a few years now. It's it really popped
been around a
off
few years.
before
There was
COVID.
that. Yeah, there was that person who I think you mentioned. I think you mentioned in the before we started up the person who went on Fox News to defend the r slash anti-work subreddit and was
Yeah. The joke was
destroyed.
they don't believe in work, so they also don't believe in doing prep work.
Yeah. Oh, that's bad. But yeah, the idea, which was
Yeah,
poorly
it
explained,
was all cringe because they were unprepared, untrained, unpracticed in every
yeah,
way.
just no media
They fell
training
into
at all.
every trap of like they didn't seem to know what Fox News entailed.
Right.
Talking to
Like what
Fox
they were
News
gonna
was
do.
the mods maybe because of their age or naivete, and I guess
Probably
that's just
both.
when your activism, your movement is just completely online.
Just text based, yeah.
Yeah, if it's all text based, it's a recipe for cringe,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. It turns out that it turns out their profession was dog walker, and they're like, "Oh, I'd like to work less," and that was the impression that people got of anti-work was
My main
having
crit Yeah, I
easy
mean, my main
jobs.
critique of that is, and we could watch it ourselves. There's a clip of it here, but just
Yeah,
a
yeah.
second of it. Um, is that he framed it as I statements. He
Right.
was there to represent two
Represent the idea.
million redditors, and he fell for. I think he tried to start strong when he's
Hmm.
asked about like why do you guys want to work less?
Yeah, right.
What are you trying to do? And he gave a sort of long-winded, but basically a proper sort of that he tried to give an answer that was his own, not just. But then everything after that was just I'm responding to the host.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
just going to be
You can't do
responsive,
that.
and you can't. You're right. Which means when he
Not
asked
answer
him
the
what do you
question you want
do,
to
he
answer.
gave the honest one-word answer.
Right.
When his answer at best could have been best, mid would have been like, "I'm a gig worker. I'm
Hmm.
underemployed, and this is the situation the economy has put me in. The
Hmm.
economy that I do not have any hand in control."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or just bring up the
And
idea that there's.
or when he asked, like, "Hey, you're free to work for somebody else," he didn't respond with, "That's the issue. You have to work for somebody else, or you
Uh huh.
can work." There's always, but the problem we have is you have to work for somebody.
Right.
And it is difficult, if not impossible, but is unlikely to make it work. It's very risky to work for yourself. Start your own
Absolutely.
business. Well, 80% of businesses fail new businesses fail within 3 to 5 years.
Right.
That's not a plan. I can't build a family with that. I can't buy
No.
a house with that.
No.
It's all risk, and the
Yeah.
reward is maybe scraping by. No, not working.
Right. Well, I mean, he also could have brought up, there's more to life than working. Like
Yeah, he
Americans
did.
are
I was
so
shocked.
overworked.
I was
They're
shocked
working
that
themselves to an early grave.
this is the best mod there,
Uh
and
huh.
this is the guy that I maybe we did a stream where we already ranted about this because we have been doing this 2 years.
Yeah.
Um, this was the guy the other mods picked to go on there,
Right. Yeah.
and he wasn't even capable of giving the usual
Like the
anti-work talking
boilerplate.
points.
Yeah.
Like all the memes, the hundreds of memes that
Right.
give all the ideas there,
Yeah.
and he didn't represent any of them.
No.
And so that's what was so cringe about it. And of course, I shared everyone's anger, the redditors, the
Hmm.
audience, the
Yeah.
movement,
Yeah.
so to speak. But it's not a movement really at all.
No.
And
Not really.
that's we can in any
It's
online thing, it
ideas.
really isn't. So that's why until I start seeing like until I'm contacted by people who want to do some Cornell West organizing in my locality.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's just online at the moment, but the movement for Cornell West, it's like okay, when people start showing up to say I want to do some Green Party stuff, that's when I'll know it's real. But until then, I'm like I don't want this to be another candidate with a party in tow,
Right.
and that's my concern about all
Right.
that. I expressed this on one of the main, I think it was the main Cornell West pages, and I got some likes and some good, like some sort of feedback. Most of the comments were just like, "What the fuck's your problem, you pessimistic asshole?" I'm like, You don't have any idea the kind of experience I have."
Yeah.
Um,
That reminds me too. It's been exciting to see that the Green Party of Minnesota has slowly been waking up once again. Their Facebook was dead for the past 3 years. Their their website's been out of date and
Uh-huh.
inaccessible for quite some
Yeah, you're
time.
right. Yeah.
But then finally they started posting again, at least on the Facebook page. So they're gonna have an annual meeting. It's gonna be
Hmm.
headed up by Cam Gordon, and
Hmm.
I'm gonna go check it out on the 16th and see finally how I can be a part of this. I've been trying to track these guys down for years now, but
Even Cam
so
Gordon.
just the Green Party in general. Like I
Yeah,
have
right.
not
If
found
there's
any.
without any staff, it's all
Yeah,
volunteer, and if there aren't any volunteers, it's dead, and that's
yeah,
it. And that's the problem. With my area right now is there's no one that hopefully if you go to our Facebook page and email what we got there, it will go to maybe me or Peter or
uh-huh.
third person, but well, actually, I don't think any of it will go to me. I mean, I can technically check it. I think no, that's just our listserv. Um, yeah, I mean, maybe it goes to Caleb, but actually, Caleb will get the public stuff. So, but he's in Troy. So now that we're meant to form county chapters, that's our step right in front of us right now.
Cool. Well, all right. Well, let's get into this video.
What's the purpose of work? Why do I even need to work?
I hated that job.
Is deeply anti-work.
An entire generation pumping gas.
It's about stopping working.
It sounds like maybe people are just
Oh, there's the
being
clip.
lazy.
Yeah.
Are you encouraging people to be lazy?
There is a movement online that is gaining popularity amongst disenfranchised workers who are struggling with jobs where they are not paid enough, not given enough work flexibility, and simply not treated with the level of respect that should be afforded to every human being. The anti-work movement. Now, I have been both accused and congratulated on a lot of my videos for championing the anti-work agenda. Accused by people who think the idea of simply not working is a stupid idea, and congratulated by people who think that sitting back and doing nothing is the best way to stick it to the man. I am making this video to tell you that they are both kind of right and both very wrong. I want to make it clear that I am not an anti-work advocate. Just last month, I was working as an investment banker, which is about the most corporate sellout job you could probably think of. It was also incredibly hard work. The rumors are true. Most people in my office worked at least 80 to 90 hours a week. You wouldn't have time for anti-work dreams because you didn't have time to sleep in between creating pitch decks. As a counterpoint, I also want to say that the anti-work movement makes some very good points when you scratch away the surface of people not wanting to work because work is hard and boring.
Your job sounds awful.
Well, of course it's awful. It's a job.
So it's time to learn how money works, to find out what the anti-work movement gets right and what it gets horribly wrong. This week's video was made possible by Brilliant. Learning new ideas can be tricky, and while lectures and books are great resources, there really is no substitute for being able to test things out graded into business
So,
by
I didn't
yourself,
rewatch
though.
this.
You are likely to be met with books and online lessons that take
I don't think
Brilliant's
there's gonna be
practical
any
how money
policy
works,
here.
or click the
It
link
is
in the
called How
description,
Money
and the
Works.
first makes sense. Anti-work online
Can you pause it
posts
well?
primarily consist of
Sure,
people
sorry.
complaining.
I think there's also a general problem with the and this is the general messaging of anti-work as a movement, is that it
Right.
has no, because there's no one in charge. It is I'm not sorry, wrong framing. Because it has no leadership in the form of, let's say, even when it's leaderful, there's still leaders.
Yeah.
And then those leaders can have a shared, a consensus on something, like
Sure.
saying, when people talk about anti-work, we want them talking about X. X
Sure.
should be that we are against the economic system that forces us to work.
Yeah.
That
No
wage
unified
slavery.
messaging.
Or
Yeah.
using the phrase wage slavery. With some anti-work videos I was pre-watching, what we're using the whole work is compared to slavery these days, wage slavery.
Right.
Because the work and the ideological and the philosophical legwork has already been done. You just have to read Proudhon. You just have to read any economic theorist that isn't a shill. Even Keynes, right? Even Keynes.
Sure.
And this guy, maybe because he's a Wall Street guy, don't have that framework, and it seems like a lot of the anti-work activists don't either. and that's sad. It means that they're not going to be taken seriously, and they shouldn't be, because they didn't do the work. But again, it's a matter of doing work so you don't have to do work, because it's work that matters versus, or maybe the demand is like, we want work that matters, not all the bullshit or bad work that the market
Right.
finds.
Not all the bullshit jobs. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Complaining about poor working conditions, calling out bad management, low pay, and occasionally making fun of corporate brown nosers on LinkedIn. Now, at least that last part is something I can wholeheartedly get behind. The anti-work movement might be best known to people for a Fox News interview with the lead moderator of the anti-work subreddit, a webpage that has over 1.6 million like-minded anti-work members. The interview was not well received, and the bad publicity did a lot of damage to the more moderate supporters of anti-work ideas. Most people realize that we can't just sit back and do nothing. Our society functions by sharing the rewards and the burdens of work. Those rewards and burdens are definitely not always shared fairly, but unfortunately society requires a lot of tedious...
What's that?
Sorry, never mind.
Oh, sorry. I thought you had something to interject there.
Not really.
...trying to operate effectively. Nobody particularly wants to do so, but it needs to get done. If you define the anti-work movement as the outright refusal to work with the idea that the government or some other body will just support everybody, then it really is just crazy. And we might as well just end the video right there.
This is another one of those videos where it's made entirely of B-roll video that's provided by like the Squarespace version of video making.
Sure.
You literally just drag little B-roll clips.
Yeah,
You know.
You do like a
I'm a little envious of, I mean, obviously it's probably not too expensive to have a subscription to it, but it really lacks any charm. Even though the beginning had that rough.
I mean, it engages the attention enough that, like,
yeah,
I think it serves its function.
it
Especially
feels like
if you're
it,
trying
but
to
it's
keep
a
it low budget.
But I know it's a manipulation, and my brain hates it.
Yeah, true. But everything is trying to sell something, I guess.
Better. I guess it's better than the video last time where it was just a red tint over like weird fields.
Yeah. See, right? It's a little more, I don't know, apropos.
Exactly.
There are free versions of these B-roll sites though too. I don't have a good link at the moment, but there's some good ones out there.
I'm a worthless employee, just like Homer Simpson. Give me a promotion!
But listening to the more moderate voices in this community is where the true value really lies. I had actually adopted a version of the anti-work mindset for my own career before it started taking off. This might not make much sense, especially since the 80-hour work weeks are the antithesis of anti-work, but hear me out on this. You can be anti-work, but still see the value in hard work. That value is essential to reminding yourself, your colleagues, and your managers that employment is not a one-sided relationship, where workers should be grateful for everything they got. Good hard work is a valuable thing, and it should be prized by good companies. Making businesses aware that they are not owed good work will encourage them to make the jobs of their employees as pleasant and rewarding as possible. If businesses refuse to meet the basic standards, then workers will always have the right to sit on their ass and do nothing, thereby denying the business its ability to produce an income. The workers might prefer an honest day's work, and I think most reasonable people agree that earning money to fund a comfortable lifestyle is preferable to subsisting off government programs, but it is always an option. If this is all sounding a bit hammer and sickle, that's kind of the point.
Oh my god.
In a way, the anti-work movement is a decentralized 21st century version of a workers' union, one that is only getting more powerful.
There's no union.
Shortages are making.
He's just advocate. He's this moderate investment maker. He is saying. Did he say past tense? He's basically saying, "Oh, I still work 80 hours a week.
He said I used to until last week." So
he's making it.
I don't know if he's jumped on the bandwagon now, and he's like, "Yeah."
Maybe he works a healthy 40 hours a week, and
right.
But he's doing it with the right mindset. People, politics is not in mindset. Okay, it is not like having values while you're doing the same old, same old. This guy's little spiel is definitely a good example of how you can take radical ideas, and then if you water them down, you can work them into the status quo very easily. Into we're a corporation that respects your work.
Yeah, right.
Thus, we have alleviated and worked with your anti-work values. As long as anti-work means, I want a cookie when I'm working 40-hour weeks.
Extra pizza party per month.
Or like I just want to be respected by my boss and thanked. I just want basic humanity. I want my boss to at least thank me while they're fucking me, while they rape me. Or while they grape me.
I mean, the way he's making it sound is like it's basically the idea of the IWW, but without any sort of organization or therefore real power to act collectively.
Yeah. Politics is power, and we have to do it together. It's collective group activity.
Absolutely.
It's not, and being online, being in a chat room is I guess it is technically a group activity. It's a discussion, but a discussion is not is a prelude or it's part of political action. It's just one of the it's one of the activities, not the activity.
Absolutely.
And now there when it comes to online activism, collectivism, activism, there is this sort of like what gave anti-work Reddit thread it had an ego and thought it could do things like go on Fox. The mods thought they could go on Fox News is because the mods semi-organized the mass to assist in the Kellogg's strike that was in 2019. And they gave themselves credit for the strike's success because they were putting, they were doxing Kellogg's sites. They basically did a flash mob action.
Sure.
As you can do with online organizing. You can do anonymous style stuff. I'm sure there's a better name for it, but I guess flash actions.
Yeah,
because they are they are amazingly flash in the pans. They are based on reacting to something, or picking a target. You do find a target, so you can think about it and strategize. But it's done through so many different conversations, and it's not like there's a leadership to say this is what we're doing, or it's a flow, it's a crowd, and I guess there's some philosophical reasons to do it that way. But at the same time, like I was reading one of Fifth Estate, the anarchist book review magazine.
Sure.
And I found myself getting pretty annoyed at some of the articles.
Really?
Yeah. They kind of, they display all Marxism and all other left-wing tendencies as being authoritarian if you're not anarchist enough. One of the articles was about like the year we should look back to is 1911, because that's just thinking about technology, because that's where we have ice boxes and telephones, but we don't have TV and World War technology. It's like it wasn't really making an argument. It was just a thought experiment, but I found it really silly because it was just another form of like primitivism of like, we go back to that level of technology, and then the next generation can go back to Neolithic, and then we're finally in balance with nature. I'm like, the way out is through. But a lot of these anarchists don't talk that way. They only talk about heading for the hills, and even if it just means intellectually.
Yeah. And that ultimately just seems defeatist. I don't know. It's like, can't you dream for anything better than that? Like,
yeah, well, it's just what annoys me is that anarchists can be very the revolutionary and optimist, but then their projects are so limited. I cannot see any potential for them. we don't have that potential. And maybe I got an explanation from Matt Crispin, who talked about he does his cruise vlog, it's called, I think.
Yeah, Kush vlog.
And he spent a good hour kind of talking about the history, kind of looking at, maybe he was referencing latest Graeber book or another book about the Spanish Civil War as being like, that when anarchists talk about their revolution and the thing that worked and anarchism in practice, they point to revolutionary Catalonia. And similar to the Zapatistas in the Yucatan and other like anarchist enclaves that exist in the world, that's all they are. They're enclaves of people who are not in our circumstances. The people in Catalonia, they went anarchist because they were going from feudalism. Their economy was feudalistic, and it was becoming modern. So they had this gap, or they had this consciousness to maintain feudalistic relationships that are pretty communitarian when it comes to the village level. We don't got that. And the people, the Zapatistas have that. They're indigenous people living in jungles, hill jungles. So they can organize in that anarcho-syndicalist way. But so you can see my thought here that our tactics and strategy need to fit our circumstances. Right. And yes, we haven't really figured out the winning strategy. And I'm talking about for revolutionary action here, not just reformist. Let's get some better wages. That's what people will accept as a demand. We don't want to push too far, too fast. But I'm not like willing. I don't really want to do that. I want to push a very powerful platform and organize with that, but argue in the rational basis of this will be better for you. This will take all of this shit off your back. Things that you worry about that you shouldn't have to. And here's a one-sentence answer for why. Why is work bullshit? Because you have to pay rent to live somewhere where basically workers built, the people who built your house are the people who are compensated for it are long dead. And it's, there's property is bullshit. And it hurts, it pains. I just don't know how. I guess I'm working myself in a corner like I usually do.
No.
But the whole to have a platform where it has the potential to get people off of the mindset of caring about private property. Because my good small business owner friend, we argued on the way up to Canada, and the rest of the guys on the bastard party trip kind of joked around and sort of took my side, not fully, but they could understand why he was being a little ridiculous and why I was just trying to talk him down. But basically he bought a piece of property on basically the sketchiest block in the city. It's the similar block as my radio station, but mine is a established community nonprofit, so it doesn't have a lot of expenses he will have. He's a business. And he's basically, and it got me thinking about the ways that when we're talking about economic development, we need to use, it would be helpful to categorize black market, gray market, and white market.
Sure.
Right? There's usually just, white market is the only, in the same way that normalization and the status quo, white males are the normal prototype, the default. Well, the default economic activity is legal, taxed, with a property deed, white market.
Brick and mortar. Yeah.
In the hood, things are either black market or gray market. And maybe there's a little, 10% is white. The bodega, the shop, the barber shop. These are the community hubs that City Hall will respect, care about, and acknowledge.
Right.
Meanwhile, there's all the bullshit out there, and some of it is bullshit because it is basically people in the hood grifting each other, which is gray market. There's no formal rules. They're not going to go to court to when they have a dispute. They're going to fight. Right. And even in the gray market, or you're gonna like have some bad blood. If it's black market, you will shoot someone over it because there is no recourse. Or you can't just
Highly illegal, and
do so. You can't harm them socially. At least in gray market stuff, you can at least tell your friends they stiff me money.
Yeah.
We made a verbal agreement. They didn't go. They reneged on, or they bullshitted their way out of paying me by basically saying like, yeah, I didn't actually make the money I thought I was going to, so I can't really give you the profit.
Yeah.
Share. I can't give it. I promised you a share of the profit. Well, I didn't really make a profit. You just have to take my word that I didn't make a profit,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Because that's what happened to my friend Hassan. Because he is trying to build relationships. He's trying to do the right thing, build relationships on this block. This is the drug market block, by the way. But he's trying to do white market business on a black market block. And he was complaining and outraged, or just sharing, about how he was basically doing some gray market activity. Or he was attempting to do some white market activity with a guy who maintains the lot next to his piece. It's two lots, really. One's a building, and there's a parking lot next to it.
Sure.
And he frames both as being his property, right? And so it's like, that's where I'm like, Hassan, damn it, I shouldn't use his name. Friend, you think this is yours now on paper, but for the last 30 years, this has been their property.
Right.
This has been their hangout spot.
Yeah.
The old men drinking, the drug dealers, the people shooting up in the alleyway behind your building. This has been their space.
Yeah.
You haven't been here.
Right.
And you coming in and putting your stuff in the building and having a piece of paper doesn't change any of that. So you being hissy about them not respecting your property makes me chuckle with amusement at your naivete about it. Even though you're not being naive, you knew the risks, but you don't want to be told.
Just don't want.
I told you so.
Yeah.
But I think because it wasn't explained, you're trying to do white market activity in a black market block. You should be doing is gray market activity first, or that your goal is to have as much white market activity as possible. You want it to be, you think your shop and whatever you're doing is going to inspire more white market activity.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
this is the process of gentrification.
It is. And to me, the better strategy would be try to incorporate those gray market folks into some sort of symbiosis where they can learn to live together. Maybe he hires them to come clean up his shop, or
in this case, he's upset because he's hired a guy. He's paying him $50 either a week or a month. It's probably a week, to clean up the lot. And he's complaining that he doesn't clean up the lot.
Yeah.
What he does do, though, is ensure that he is responsible for the lot. He can shoo people away, or he can facilitate the drinking group that he has to drink in the lot, right? And what you're paying for is that and he's also grifting using the lot. This is the gray market thing where he was saying he was. So by the way, this lot is not too far from the arena, the main arena in Albany. So it's there's some parking demand on certain days. So he was charging for parking on this lot, saying he had the permission of the owner.
Hey, good for him.
He did not.
No, I know. I got it.
This
but,
pissed my friend off. But I'm like,
it's some good
his ability to
entrepreneurial
grift
spirit.
and take your $50 is the price you're paying for his gray market activity versus there being black market activity.
Right. Yeah, he's keeping a lid on things. So it may not be the job he was hired for, but it's still an important service, it sounds like. And no, he makes a few extra bucks on the side.
He should acknowledge that even if it doesn't meet his high ethical standards.
Right.
As a hardworking immigrant, child of an immigrant family, Egyptian, has worked hard for everything against prejudice and is aware of all of it. Not only aware, it's affected him deeply. But he's a workaholic. He doesn't know how to sleep. He sleeps very little.
Oh, jeez.
And he seems to like it that way, even though it's like that's why they're not foodies like me. We went to Montreal, and it's just like, this is a guy who can survive on a jar of peanut butter and whatever. Anyway, enough about that. But I wanted to, it's a good illustration of the kind of mindsets people come in, even when they're like really strong reformism, where like, he can agree with me on some radical things, but he does not understand how to implement any of it, or what. Yeah, he just doesn't kind of know. Like, at the end of the day, he just wants to make art. He's very anti-work himself, but he's also a workaholic. But he enjoys book selling. That's his small business. But he also works a full-time state job, which he also enjoys because, I guess he kind of enjoys it, but he has a planning degree, and he gets to work with and do analysis. It's very...
That's good. Man, I wish I could get that. Jeez.
And currently, my job is also more of the creative set, where I'm working for SUNY State University, and it's taken me a month to figure out what really my main position, like what am I going to do with this job now that I have it, because it's literally the kind of thing where I actually have to figure out what I'm going to do there. It's not going to be like a rote, like busy work kind of thing for once. And it's really my first like project-based job, perhaps. And I'm going to be making infographics based on SUNY data.
Oh, that's cool.
So that whether it's for the big wigs or for the public, I can take all of these tables, these data sheets, and make it into something understandable, digestible.
Nice.
Visualizing the decline of community college enrollment, I think, will be a priority for me. But obviously, I need to ask my colleagues what is their, they can tell me what the bigwigs' priorities are. They're mentioned in most meetings we have. So I can take notes on that and try to make infographics.
What is that going on?
It's fireworks.
Is that gunfire? Oh, okay.
So we did have 2 shootings on the same night a week ago.
Oh, now
and
I
they
hear
were
that.
both like a 26-year-old and like a 24-year-old. It was literally like the lyric from Gangster's Paradise, like, I'm 24, will I live to see 25? I don't know.
Yeah, right. Jeez.
Yeah. And they were not in totally different parts of town, but like they weren't in the hood, but more or less, like, I don't know, any hood's a hood, really.
Right. For sure. Okay, well, why don't we get back to video at hand?
Making it harder for businesses to endlessly churn through new recruits. Removing the stigma around people that are choosing to take time off work or cutting down on their hours is only going to make your own hard work more valuable, no matter how much of it you decide to exchange for a paycheck. When I quit my job to do YouTube full-time, I was still called crazy by a lot of people despite having almost every advantage going for me. I don't have a family to support, I come from an upper middle class background that I can fall back on in a disaster, and I wasn't quitting because I couldn't stand to work anymore. I was quitting to try and build a business. If people made me feel bad about forgoing traditional work, then it is obvious that people just expect people to work no matter what.
So you'll just work us to death?
We'll sure try.
The choice to take a step back from work is not an easy one for some people to make. For others, it's impossible. Anti-work may have its problems, but it's important for people to know that it's okay to take a step back if they need it. Doing so only makes it easier for everybody else. Now, I think the anti-work movement has personally taught me something really valuable about how to manage a career. Something that is ironically such a huge departure from the ideas of the more outspoken voices in the community that it probably sits on the exact opposite end of the political spectrum, if you believe that sort of thing. Anyway, if you are deciding how to best manage your career, stop thinking of yourself as a worker and start thinking of yourself as a company. A company with a duty exclusively to your shareholders, which is just yourself and your family. As a company, you will need to make money, and you can do that by working for other companies. A well-managed company should always be looking to work with businesses that pay them the most for their services they are offering. A well-managed company should also conduct market research to make sure that the services they are providing are in demand and are being compensated well. If your particular services are not, you as a company should seriously consider providing a different service or moving into an entirely different industry. No company is going to provide its services just because it feels a sense of loyalty to another company it's been working with.
Is this an ad?
And here is the hardest part to follow.
Oh, I bet
If you think of yourself as your own company, you have to understand that
And here's
sometimes
the
you're
service that
going
can
to have
help
to
you
get a
be your
bit
company.
creative in how you market your company. Any company will tell you called nepotism. A company would just call it word of mouth. Either way,
by the way, I'm
it comes
joking.
to attracting
I
new.
think this isn't. It's
It just seems like he was moving into an ad for a second there.
He's reading like an ad.
Yeah.
But he's such a corporate hack kind of guy.
That must be.
And he is using the most like Thatcherite rhetoric here.
Yeah, I didn't understand.
There is
where
no
he's going
society.
with,
There are
"This is
only
how-"
companies and their families.
right.
It just comes off like an ad.
Business. If an employee uses this tactic to get a job, it might be called nepotism. A company would just call it word of mouth. Either way, it works. So you may as well use it to your advantage when you can. Now, this isn't totally an anti-work mindset. Sometimes your business is going to have to work
That's
around
not
the
word of
clock to
mouth.
secure a
It's
lucrative
social connections. I mean, there is something to say about social connections, that like things happen in society because of social connections. And we don't like when we use social connections versus the institutional connection. The institution, which is its goal in bureaucracy, is actually to destroy social relationships or negate them. We have to negate them. And it kind of shows that like to have communalistic, to have community, to have social relationships, to do things, and to get a job. This is antithetical to liberal fairness, I guess, corporate fairness.
Yeah, the
why they
meritocracy.
oppose things
Yeah.
in terms of social groups, race and sex. These things are enemies because of that.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Let's move on.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't
On
care
track.
about this last
And
minute,
sometimes it will make sense
What?
to
I said you don't care about this last minute, do you?
Um,
It's definitely not
I don't
where
know. I kind of want to see what he's
go.
building to.
Okay.
I just want to see what his
Last minute
ribbon on the whole thing is.
Sure.
We can speed it up though.
No, it's fine.
All right.
Fast enough. No, he's talking fast enough.
relax your business operations a little. A smart business should not use more resources than it absolutely needs to. Navigating a career where you think employers and employees are on two different power levels is going to make you less likely to negotiate for what you are truly worth. If I agree with the anti-workers on just one thing, it is that work sucks.
Brad, for 14 years I've been a whore for the advertising industry. The only way I could save myself now is if I start firebombing.
Whatever. Management wants you gone by the end of the day.
It's something that we do because we have to. And since we have to do it, we should make sure that we are getting the most out of it that we possibly can. So, what is the greatest entity in existence for extracting as much value possible out of something? A corporation, of course. They are unashamedly soulless, heartless machines made to maximize profit. Instead of hating them, it's much more productive to learn from them and to always think to yourself, what would I do if I was a company? And the product I was selling were the hours in my day.
Oh God, I definitely don't like this conclusion. Ew.
They're
Now,
really
if you're going to
horrible
be
things. But
yeah, they're really horrible. You should be just like them.
But they're effective because obviously they're on top for a reason, and that is something to understand. That's what Marx is all about.
Absolutely.
Marx's writings and Marxism is all
This is
about
capital. Yes.
to understand why it came out on top and why it will or should transform into or what based on conditions, how will it transform or what could it transform into?
Right.
And I suppose that's how we've gotten all the ideas of the postmodern era of decentralizing, but without dismantling anything. That, it's corporations on top and it's not going anywhere, or it's here and it doesn't have any weakness to, like, it's not going to collapse in any particular way. The form, rather, not the things that, not a corporation, just the model of the corporation. We've noticed is that even as the world burns around, the corporation can still function. It can still keep extracting. That's sort of what's horrifying about it, is that it can still keep extracting even as all the means of extraction fall apart, or all the things that to extract, it just finds something else.
Well, and the ones at the top are the most insulated from any effects. So yeah,
it's, I guess that's sort of why smashing is sort of the answer. Not transforming or reforming. It's not going to transform into a capitalism to a post-capitalism or a pseudo-capitalism or mixed economy. Oh, I hate when progressives say, like, people generally just want a mixed economy.
Mixed economy. What does that mean even?
Well, it means that, people want free enterprise. They want the ability to start projects and do economic activity without asking a committee for permission, I guess. Even though they do that when they go to the bank for a mortgage or a loan.
Right.
It's just a capitalist committee. They just don't want it to be a political committee because that can be based on race and who you are.
Government physically. Yeah.
But a bank, they only judge you based on your ability to be profitable, and that's something we can all control.
Merits
by working harder. And that's something we can control and value and whatever. That's why we have to care about work. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap it up. Only 20 seconds left.
Negotiating like a company, it will serve you well to do some client research. You can start by watching my video on why company management is always terrible. A big thanks again to Brilliant for making.
Anyway. All right. Oh, I forgot to share this first video in the chat. Let's do that now.
It was just one I picked because it was the shortest, actually. The
No,
others
it was
a
good.
little more fun, but some were longer. One, which was from a channel called The Take, actually has a radical purpose to it.
Cool.
They actually use they actually make conclusions of like lessons. Well, no, actually, no. Their lessons are more like, yes, how to apply these things to your own life. Not so much formulate a revolutionary strategy. No YouTube video is really good at doing that.
Right.
Except maybe Andrewism. I mean, he can kind of do something like that. And in certain YouTube channels, Marxist Paul or Marxism Today.
Sure.
Have a few like that. Lucky Black Cat is sort of trying to do both, kind of make the classic instructional entertainment bread tube video. Yeah, actually, no, that's kind of what she just does.
Well, cool. I mean, it had some decent explanatory parts in that video, but
barely.
It was worth the watch, though.
It looked fun in the first 30 seconds.
Sure.
So, yeah, go back to the. How about the rechargeable?
Why EV charging stations suck?
Let's bash some electric cars.
I'm down for that.
And by the way, we can bash electric bikes too, even though they make biking way more accessible. It's always sobering to read Low Tech Magazine, where he had an article about making bikes sustainable again, because since the 80s, when bikes actually became popular, but the explosion of manufacturing of bikes is that they're not made of steel anymore, but made of aluminum and other high embodied energy metal and other metal that is less recyclable. The carbon fibers and the other composites, they're harder to reuse.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
And you have all the explosion of companies that are not standardizing any of their parts.
Well,
so
that's about
the same IP problem where derailleur doesn't match this and that, and the brake
Right.
lines are, it's you get this high diversity, the diversity of the marketplace, but then nothing is replaceable, and so that just adds, so that there's more bikes, and there's more people riding bikes, but the lifetime of the bike is going down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're gonna get a bike, buy a used one that's older than 1990.
Yeah,
or
one of the best bikes I ever had was made in like 1973. Got it in New Zealand. Rode it for the time I was doing study abroad. Never failed. Never, once gave me a problem. It was great.
Well, I had a retro one, and it served me well, but a part of it bent, and it was unfixable. Like you couldn't bend it back,
Man.
otherwise it would snap off, and that made the whole frame useless, basically. Or I mean, unless I guess you welded it anew, like we'd have to take it apart and weld it. We weren't taking that path. I mean, we don't have those capabilities at the bike rescue.
Yeah, sure.
So I bought another used from them. It's fine. It's working fine. I don't know if it's
Nice.
aluminum or not, but remember, aluminum, unsustainable metal. Uses a lot of energy to make aluminum. It's lighter, of course, but
It is recyclable though, right? Like it's one of the most recyclable materials.
it just takes a lot of energy. And if you're really
Okay.
talking about sustainability, zero, low energy, you gotta think about like steel, basically.
Steel. So steel takes less energy to recycle, huh?
Well, it's longer. I mean,
Oh,
it's
it's just more because it's more durable. It's just gonna
Yeah.
last longer. So that
Exactly.
embedded energy is spread out over more years. I
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. It takes a century for it to corrode down to nothing.
Gotcha. Okay. Hey,
Aluminum
good thing to
can
keep in mind.
bend. It's lighter.
Yeah,
but it's
you know.
strong.
Yeah. Right.
Until we get the transparent aluminum.
Uh-huh. All right. So this is why EV charging stations suck and how to fix it.
Oh, go back to the beginning, man.
Oh yeah, I don't know how it got.
This
to-
is Stuart Hicks. He's an architect, so he comes at it from that point of view.
Electric vehicle charging stations. Do they have to suck?
I mean, they're usually located in some obscure, out-of-the-way spot
Absolutely
that's
true.
difficult to find, or they're floating out in the middle of some open parking lot at the mall like this one. Once you eventually get here, it's all very underwhelming. Places like this lack any distinguishing characteristics. It's just some, futuristic-looking kiosk sprouting from the ground next to a parking space.
That's
To
not
top it all
waterproof
off,
at
with
all.
public chargers, you're
Right.
taking a gamble on whether or not the charger will work in the first place.
For now, visiting a gas station is just more predictable
Wow.
experience. While your average gas station is not exactly a destination or a pinnacle of design excellence, the form of the gas station and what goes with it has developed for decades. While they're not all great, there have been a few pretty good ones over the years.
Either way, it seems that electric vehicles are the future, and charging our cars in spaces like this will be more and more a part of our everyday lives.
There are now more than 3 million EVs on the road and over 130,000 public chargers across the United States, and it's increasing at a rate of 60% per year.
So the question remains, do these spots have to suck? I don't think so. And in fact, the successful conversion of automobiles to electricity will to some degree depend on getting this part of the ownership experience right.
Not only do charging stations need to be safe, practical, and efficient, they need to be at places that us humans want to be, or at least tolerable for the length of time that it takes to charge a battery. And wouldn't it be great if these spaces actually contributed to the built environment at large, even beyond their just practical use?
So let's discuss what goes into EV charging stations, and let's see what's possible for sad places like this to be, well, a little less sad.
First off, there are 3 types of technologies used in EV charging stations.
It's not
Level 1,
debunking
Level 2,
here.
and
He's
Level
just
3.
kind of exploring actually how to make them better.
Yeah.
Level 2 and 3 are probably the ones that we're talking about here. Level 1 is a charging using a 120 volt standard outlet, and it might take a day to charge an electric vehicle. Level 2 uses a 240 volt outlet and can charge an electric vehicle in about 4 to 8 hours. Level 3, though, is known as DC fast charging. It uses high voltage DC connection and can charge a car in 30 minutes or less. So level 3s are the kind of places that you might stop on a long road trip or while you're out to keep things juiced up a little bit. And they require a larger footprint and more complex infrastructure due to those higher power requirements. But while their needs are more robust, it's not quite as spatially intensive as, say, a gas station, which requires large tanks underground to store the fuel and then pumps to distribute it. So gas station design is a bit more centralized by nature to keep things compact around these tanks. The centralization means that you can create a single canopy to protect customers who are usually waiting outside next to their cars, or for the attendants moving around them. They also have quicker turnover, meaning that they can serve more people while allowing cars to just pass through, and this is different than EV charging, which tends to be more like a parking lot.
But while traditional gas stations look pretty standard to us today, they've actually changed a lot over the years. They too were once just utilitarian and machine-focused enterprises, before it became obvious to us what other kinds of human considerations should be lumped with them.
There's a word that architects use to describe a repeatable design solution that repeats this common set of elements around a shared purpose. It's called a building type or typology. A gas station is a building type. You can identify it from its common elements: the canopy, the pumps, the small accessory building, and the large sign. These are packaged together as a common solution to a set of known problems, and type is a powerful concept for architecture. Artist Roby Ch did a beautiful study of gas station types through
And I
photography
think
and painting.
any field of analysis or study, I'm talking about like political types, political typology.
Yeah, definitely.
That is way more, and maybe that's clicking with me because I'm aware of using the word type and typology from architecture. But we need to be. I think it can be used by other disciplines to get around certain describing problems that various political conversations have by not breaking
Yeah, absolutely.
into types.
Yeah, I think that could be very powerful too.
We have a set
especially
of
if it's-
problems, and we should have a type
Right.
of solution or a typology
Right.
for applying to it. In the same way,
Yeah,
unionization is like a
efficient.
typology to these workplace problems,
Right.
and these community problems have a typology of the social nonprofit or mutual aid collective.
Right. So you have kind of standardized organizing structures and strategies, and these things that can be replicated and brought across the country. Yeah, I think that's
tactics.
Very good.
Which helped establish their role in the public imagination. Anyway, when you have a known type, architects like to play with the elements that go into that type. Like, what if the building and the canopy were the same thing? Or how might a canopy be constructed in a unique way?
What if the evil T-1000 was hiding as a gas station?
Hey, don't knock me.
I'm sorry. I just
Do you
many
prefer
angles.
just stick?
I'm not saying the regular canopy is a work of beauty or anything, but like,
it's not doing it either.
EV charging doesn't really have a building type yet that has emerged, and the distributed nature of its organization versus maybe the compactness of a traditional gas station means that it likely won't yield the same level of constant elements as a gas station has.
Almost every part of the EV experience is different. For instance, your GPS guides you to the station. You're not just looking for a sign along the highway. Even paying isn't.
You see, it comes to mind that the form that this is more akin to is more like a truck stop. So on truck stops, you have people that are going to be parking for a long time, getting out of their truck. There's a lot of space that they need for it, and they're going to come in and expect, say, a diner, convenience store, stuff like that, because they're going to be waiting a few hours because of whatever sleep or work restrictions they have, and they have to have that time off. So maybe something like that would be more appropriate.
Like every town or suburban strode area, catchment area, has the equivalent of the rest areas along the main highway.
Yeah, stuff like that.
It has a big building, but then a sorted parking lot that is
some
half
picnic
charged,
tables, sure.
half charging stations.
Right, yeah.
Or maybe it's all charging stations, and you stop here to charge. But it includes a building with
Yeah,
various
just a little more than
amenities
just your typical gas station, in and out sort of.
and McDonald's.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know. Just a thought. But I mean, at the same time, this whole thing, I have just a level
it's
of
still
resistance to.
centralized, though.
Is
We're
like,
still talking about something actually being centralized versus
right.
the thing about this typology is it's decentralized. You can plop these in any little
Those are
parking
random.
lot. So it seems like a lot of vacant lots or people who have parking lots and are making a profit from parking
Right.
can add these as added value and up the rents for the space.
Yeah. Yeah, like I mean, maybe in the suburbs. I'm kind of resistant to this whole thing because like I don't want cars to be the dominant form, so I don't
Yeah,
want.
I mean, we should be. We
You
should be.
know.
It's going to be quite the quite the organizing challenge to be the first. I mean, it's hell in a single public meeting. I can imagine I'm the only maybe out of 3 people who are actually anti-car and do not want any expansion of car-based infrastructure, even if it's electric.
Right.
But I know that in my environmentalist circles or socially progressive circles, even the Democrats, or whether they're Democrats or not, they usually are. They are all for any spending on EV charging, or they see it as the thing that's going to be included no matter what, because corporations are pumping out EVs and they're selling them. So this is the infrastructure that the public is going to need to build.
Yeah,
they have to subsidize, right? There's no. Well, I guess did Tesla pay for the charging stations they're putting in various lots? I guess so.
I
but
wonder
I'm sure
if
it's
they do,
only
if they
American.
work some kind of deal.
But obviously, when any Green New Deal, and I'm talking about the Democratic version, includes like a bulk of spending for charging station infrastructure, why the fuck is that something that the Fed is paying for, right?
Right.
And why did it become like, and that's something that's part of the Green New Deal, that's like, and I guess even in the Green Party we need to include that, but this is where you got to win in there first. If you can convince fellow Greens or eco-socialists to be anti-car, or at least limit cars, put a cap on all this, and let gas-powered stuff attrition out as it becomes unfinancially impossible, and as we build out mass transit. I think pretty sure our platform is mass transit is first.
It should be, absolutely.
Yeah. If it isn't, I'm in the wrong party. But
right.
But taking out any mention of EV charging and EV vehicles, because it's not even from the vantage point of sustainability, it's a failure, or it's a projected failure. Like you can say, the cost will go down, the ecological footprint will go down as the numbers go up. That's not how corporate economies work at all. Which is why decorporatizing the economy is like needs to be part of the platform. And if it isn't, then we're in the wrong place, which is why it's eco-socialism in a romantic.
Yeah.
Anti-work is a romantic sentiment as much as anything.
Definitely.
When it's talked about as a movement, laying flat is a set of values which can be embodied mostly by middle-class people who are basically committing class suicide. That is essentially what it's describing. Because the poor, I mean, they can be anti-work, but that's just part of their class consciousness, to work as little as possible. They're already there, doing gray market grifts and what have you. But it's a pretty elitist thing to think like the way to be ethical in your economic dealings is to only work in white markets, and it's to do things properly, and that includes doing it under government supervision, because those regulations do protect the public sometimes. If you're doing things in the gray or black manner, that involves dumping toxic waste in streams, and it involves littering, dumping your trash in the vacant lot, because that counts as black market and gray market stuff, because you're not doing it properly, or you're not
It's
doing
not
it
above
legally.
board, yeah.
Yeah. But doing things in the white market means paying 10 different rents. And that's
true.
sort of where illegalism and other types of anarchism like that is more about tearing down white markets and saying, well, free markets are black markets. And that's where you get into ANCAP territory. But ANCAPs act like they want the black market to be the white market, right? For it to be legalized or something.
Right, they just want
or
anything
respected
goes.
or whatever. Or it to
Right.
be property values are somehow interlaid in black market ethics in the way things work, which is why it's insanity or ridiculous to us.
One of the many reasons that ANCAPistan is insanity, but yeah.
But it's also why that's why as socialists I sort of err on the statist side. I just want this, my vision of the state as a democracy doesn't include paying 10 different rents to act in the white market. So I do want everything to be white market, but I want the white market to be democratic and not involve rents. So that's sort of the puzzle to solve to me.
Definitely.
Instead of the alternative of everything just needs black market, people self-organize, and because that's how black markets filling in the vacuums of white markets.
Right. Yeah, you're definitely right. We do want to eradicate rent seeking. That is anti-socialist. I did look it up, by the way. Apparently Tesla does pay for these charging stations, including the electricity for the stations.
Really?
Which
I guess that makes sense. That makes sense because so the people charging at the public Tesla stations, they're not paying anything. There's no credit.
No, not as far as I know. Yeah.
Okay, I was wondering about. Well, I wasn't wondering hard because I don't give a shit.
But how is that a long-term sustainable model, though?
But I was thinking about that, where electric vehicle owners are not thinking about the cost of electricity they're using ever. So, and this must be why.
Yeah.
The charging stations, they don't have to dip a credit card and see that they're spending. Electricity isn't that expensive yet, and even if it is, but
true.
I
but
mean, how
the
many
more of these stations they put out,
how many gigawatts are you using putting into a car? Though I think it's a substantial amount. It's a lot more than what your household uses per week, I'm sure.
Yeah, very well may be. I believe, the car is one of the highest energy uses of any household. So you would think even the equivalent of electricity, even if it was coming from, say, solar or wind or whatever, would be pretty substantial. And I mean, you got to wonder how that's going to work in the long term, though, because the more cars you have on the road, the more charging stations you have, the more Tesla's going to be shelling out for this stuff. The only thing I think is eventually
they'll flick a switch and suddenly.
That's what I'm thinking. They do the same thing as the all of a sudden there's Twitter Blue, only it'll be Tesla Blue.
Once they have enough of a base, once there's enough customers, and it becomes to a point where you have to have an electric vehicle, and that's what I'm afraid of is the next 20 years where it becomes, and I see it in the voices of every progressive, that this is an inevitability. That it's just even as I argue against cars or building out this infrastructure, they're like, but it's inevitable. It's going to happen. We have to accept it. And the true defeatism shows its face of even if they think they don't even want to think about how wrong it is or how it's not going to work out for the earth because it's inevitable and there's nothing they feel they can do about it because the status quo has deemed that this is in fact the morally righteous thing to do,
right?
As Democrats, and the Republicans will say, well, it's terrible, it's evil, it's communist to have charging stations where I guess the Tesla pays for the power. It's free ride, and you have to be against them, and so you're for EV charging stations. But it's a three-way fight. That we're in, and so we have to oppose both.
True enough. All right, let's move along.
In a cash transaction requiring an attendant, it's usually handled in an app, so pairing them with convenience stores isn't such a natural fit. In these ways, the EV station is a new problem to solve with unique opportunities. But just because it doesn't require the same common and collective design strategies doesn't mean that they can't contribute positively to the built environment. An element that does carry over between both gas stations and with some EV charging locations is the shading canopy. For instance, a number of Tesla superchargers have a canopy. These tend to be steel structures with bright white lighting. They might also support some solar panels on their triangular-shaped supports. This design, though, is pretty sterile and clinical, and I'm assuming that's to go with the minimal futurist aesthetic of the brand. Since canopies have been part of gas stations all along, there are tons of architectural experiments here, from folded steel ones to elegant concrete curves which push the boundaries of structural design and the
Still
material
looks really
properties
tall.
to
Like,
dynamic
if
shape.
it's raining at anything but a 90-degree angle, you're still going to be wet. So I don't
That's
really
true.
bite, even in the shade. The sun isn't
True.
always
Like, it has to be
high
noon for it
noon,
to
you
be
know,
like, right. It
effective,
must just have to be to accommodate semi-trucks, like the height of a semi-truck.
Trucks aren't always stopping at those, though. That's not a truck.
No, and oftentimes they have their own special pumps that are
Yeah.
diesel only, but that's all I could figure.
They really only need to be 3 meters high. The
Yeah,
most.
maybe it's the refueling trucks, but even that often is to the side. I don't know. You got me on that. Yeah.
It's evoking the speed of the road.
That said, I don't think that the promise of EV charging stations lies in making more aesthetically pleasing or even architecturally daring canopies, or at least it doesn't lie primarily there.
There's an organization called Electric Autonomy, which ran a competition for architects to imagine what an EV station of the future might be like. They received 100 entries from around the world. Many of the winners include a canopy that expresses different sensibilities, though, than the Tesla example, with more texture, variety of materials, warmer lighting, and so on. They also pair them with landscape designs and activities that contribute to the overall health and well-being of people and the environment.
One thing I noticed about the winners was that they provide a sense of place. They're not made of branded, sterile white metal or plastic panels, but maybe materials like wood. These canopies welcome people, and the structure contributes to its surroundings beyond just solving the problem of charging up a car.
In one design, a cascading set of canopies becomes a place for people to climb and explore. These designs integrate with the landscape elements that connect with the building with its surroundings. Many of these also create an interior zone with leisure
Not very
activities and places to
cost-effective.
interact with other people. They may also connect with walking
They're
or
fanciful.
hiking.
They're
Yeah,
fanciful
yeah,
because
that's-
they're
that's
never.
definitely-
The thing about these competitions is they're good idea generators, but if there's anything I learned from my architectural education is that there's what the designers design, and
Yeah.
there's what capital will pay for.
Exactly.
And when I saw the latter, I'm like, no way, Jose. I cannot live a career of making designs like what you're seeing that are still really hollow as far as like, but cars are in human machine, and you're really just trying to build some community generator around it.
Right.
Yeah.
I totally hear you. I go through the same thing with landscape design. It's like a lot of these very large apartment complexes that I do design work for. I'd love to take each section and just make it its own unique, carefully crafted garden. But they don't end up wanting to pay for that. So I just go like, oh, do this bush here, and we'll do that bush there.
Bush
and we'll
there.
alternate a couple of these flowers here, and that's what they end up going for. So
Well, if see how what reception you get to pitching herb gardens and other
herb
such
gardens.
things. Yeah, because
I
in
actually-
Montreal, my friend I was just talking about, he took a picture of one of the flower beds did have food in it. I don't
Nice.
remember passing such a thing when we were walking the streets, but I'll have to ask him what day it was. But he took a picture and said in Montreal they were growing food in their flower beds, public flower beds, and
That's cool.
and that's something that Meanwhile, in America, in Albany, we have this shit.
Yep. I do sneak that in as much as I can. I pick, flowering
Growing
bushes
edible.
that also happen to produce edible food and
Yeah,
stuff
berry
like that.
berry bushes.
Right, exactly. And herbs, creeping time has become real big as a landscaping selection. So yeah, I do it as much as I can, but still.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trails.
Building, parking, landscape, they're all considered together and brought into close proximity.
Some of the more adventurous
What
examples
is
try to
this?
make some of the intangible aspects of electrification seem a little bit more tangible and legible. For instance, one calculated the area of solar panels that would be needed to have a direct relationship with the power that's generated and consumed.
Why make it in a circle?
They turned that into a large circular trail.
No. I mean,
It's a
that's
trail.
beautiful. That's beautiful. That's no one is going to go for that. No one's going to take up that much real estate.
Oh,
just
because you have to
a walking
buy
trail.
the whole.
You got to buy
have to
that
buy
whole
the
circle of
square.
land.
But
and then
it
hope
is
that it doesn't get
it is
developed
telling.
next to it.
But it is telling though. I mean I like the exercise to show
Yeah.
how much square footage of solar panel do you need to charge the 20 vehicles?
Right.
Out of
Right.
what billion vehicles we're supposed to have?
Yeah. This is one charge,
just
in one
for
spot.
that day.
Yeah. Right.
All that. That's not feasible, my friend. It's not.
No, I mean you'd be taking
feasible.
up.
Even if it's on a hiking trail. It's
Right.
all those panels, they got a 30-year lifespan at best. They're made with the batteries, the minerals. They're not from nothing. They're not just made of silicon.
Sure.
And the sand you have to use to make good panels. There's only certain places in the world you need the good kind of grain sand.
Mhm.
Sand is not infinite. It's not like we're taking it from the Sahara, and even if we did, you still have to ship it here.
Well, I mean,
or you're not going to take it out of the Arizona desert.
Yeah.
No.
I thought we looked at a video once where they were talking about how you can't take sand from the Sahara and make it glass because it's the wrong shape for some reason. It just doesn't melt right.
Yeah.
So
Something like that. Yeah, and the whole little graphics of we only need to cover this much of the Sahara to meet
only
all
this much.
the world's needs of solar power.
Right.
You can't
That's
distribute
not how
that.
distribution works, but yeah.
I know it's just a graphic. It's just a
Right.
We
To
can do the
illustrate.
same thing where we can pack all the humans. If they were shoulder to shoulder, they would fill the square mileage of LA.
Yeah. Yeah, or like
Hey,
if we
it's not that many people, it's that we're all spread out.
if we built at the density of Manhattan, we would only need the space of Texas or something like that. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Which I can kind of get behind if
Well,
we have if we
but
have the
then-
amount of parks as Montreal does. They have a lot of nice little parks, and a lot
Sure,
more.
but I mean, just imagine
Mm.
these smog that would be generated by a place
Mega
like that.
City
and
One.
Just the human waste that would need to be shipped out on trains. I mean, it is shipped out on trains from New York, so yeah.
Since one calculated the area of solar panels that would be needed to have a direct relationship with the power that's generated and consumed. They turned that into a large circular trail. While this example might not be what we want to see in the world exactly, the proposal prompts us to think differently about the status quo. And not all architectural speculations about a better
My way of thinking
relationship
about the
between
status
EVs and buildings.
quo is not imagining typologies for EV chargers. It's to think about trains.
Yeah.
That being a train stop.
Right.
Okay. Like the whole thing there where she was showing little thought bubbles of I'm driving to Toronto, and someone else, they're sharing where they're going. You can do that in a fucking train station. Or actually, no, not really, because you're going the same place. But you can actually talk to people on the train.
Yeah, right. Actually have some community and
Not
stuff
just
like that.
not just while you're waiting for your vehicle to charge. You can interact with people the whole train ride.
Absolutely.
That's the magic of the train.
Yeah, it's unfortunate how much of an uphill
with
battle
the
that
lounge,
is, though.
with the lounge car, yeah.
Sure. I mean, we could definitely be reimagining the urban train, the urban light rail or whatever, make it more than just
or the
moving people
interurban.
from A
I mean,
to
the
B.
Amtrak system
Sure.
could get the 100 billion it needs.
Yeah. Actually,
but
have some
instead,
high-speed
we're going to
rail
put
in this
100
country?
billion
Yeah.
into EV charging stations.
Right.
That's what I'm
Right.
really afraid of. That the progressives will cheer this
Uh-huh.
instead of money for Amtrak because they don't
Right.
take the train; they drive.
Right.
So to them, it's natural
Oh.
to support electric driving, so they can continue happy motoring because that's freedom, and we don't want to give that up, and that's what people want. You have to do what the people want. But it's not really what
Yeah.
people want. People drive.
Well, I mean,
are-
people. It's
they're
hard for
just
people
doing
to
short
imagine.
trips. We're all just
Right.
doing short trips. We only
Oh
need
yeah,
the
I
cars
do it myself.
when
Yeah.
we're going on vacation. I mean, we
Right.
rented the car. Sorry, the bachelor trip. We rented a car because Amtrak couldn't get to Montreal.
Really? From
Yeah, the trains in Montreal, the Amtrak was canceled.
Oh.
At least above Albany. Why? Because when the tracks when it's hot enough, the tracks start getting soft. And
Oh my god.
in the area in Canada, I guess the national rail there is even worse than Amtrak is, our tracks,
man.
because their tracks are so bad that if with the heat, the trains would need to go 10 mph, like while they were in Canada, which means it would take roughly like 10 hours, 6 hours to go from the border to Montreal. And the main issue isn't that like they wouldn't do this, because I have been in sections of my trip to Houston where the train only went 10 miles per hour for like an hour. But it would go over the contract for the rail workers. You know, they do have a limit of how much they can work continuously.
Oh yeah.
So that's what prevented. They had to cancel the train service above Albany.
Oh man.
So you could still take New York City to Albany, but you couldn't go Albany to Montreal.
Jeez.
Even though I think the train stops in Plattsburgh, but maybe it doesn't.
Huh.
It must. But anyway, yeah. So
Yeah, we could be doing so much more.
Yeah,
You know,
and
but
there
those
are plans in
cannabis.
the work. There are plans in the works to kind of have a passport check before you train. That way, you don't have to get off at the border.
That makes sense. Yeah.
The border checks are, you know, you're doing mass transit, but you still have to get off at the border to get off, have your stuff searched,
Sure.
go with the passport, you know, go with the office clerk. It adds another half an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, the point is we
Could
could
rant
do
about
so
this
much
over
more
and over.
with trains. Totally with you.
Things are focused along the highways. Some architects like Louis Cermaki Lewis have imagined new kinds of buildings in a more urban environment that would integrate EVs throughout the building.
No.
This would be made possible since they don't give off any emissions. Park Tower envisions a drive-up skyscraper, intertwining a parking garage with a mixed-use sequence of programs.
God.
There's a double helix of driving ramps and parking areas that intertwines with a common set of mixed programs like hotel, residential, and office. There's always a sandwich of spaces of parking and then other activities. They argue that the suburban patterns are thus coupled with an urban building type and footprint. The time-consuming suburban commute is transformed into a seductive urban ascent.
These architects have never been in a ramp when like a show gets out, or it's rush hour,
or when a number of people in using the building have to leave at once.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just your normal rush hour to and from. Like, come on.
So this is the other side of architecture school. Now, my school was very practical in that we were not done. Well, first we were Manhattanite, so nobody was designing anything like this. All right, we were subway. We took the subway. we were people who knew mass transit. We were not designing around cars. In fact, that was one of the things that ruined our with the solar decathlon, because we did not design a house that had a suburban character or a character that was around the car. Actually, you know, some Purdue University, their design for the solar house of the future had a garage, and this was back in 2010, and even then I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, man. Like, there's a fucking garage on this house of the future. The future doesn't fucking have a garage. There's no car.
No.
Like how this is like that's when I'm like, this is bullshit. Department of Energy, fuck you. They were the organizer. Because ours was a completely urban type house. It went on other roofs, and we lost a lot of points because it wasn't marketable. It wasn't, it's just, but we were working with our situation. And this is there's a lot of architects, and again, like I don't know if they were paid to do this or not. Some do this out of passion in their spare time. That's where the sleepless nights come in. And yeah, it's I was seeing bullshit like this back in school, and I see it now, and I'm just like, and I see it on this stuff like this will show up in solar punk pages.
No, solar punk. I thought solar punk had moved completely beyond this car fetishization.
Not with the cars, but the design sensibility.
Oh,
like
okay.
I got into it with someone, and since I didn't know them, I was maybe I could be a little meaner, or at least a little blunt, and they were posting basically something that looked like the Google or the Amazon headquarters in Seattle, but it was on a hillside, and that made it solar punk.
Oh,
like,
wow, that makes
this looks
sense.
like a corporate headquarters. How is this solar punk? And they're like, ugh, how pessimistic of you to only think in terms of today's, ways of thinking about what buildings can be for. I'm imagining that this is this or that, or it's a co-op, or it's this. I'm like, well, exactly. It could be anything. Thus, it is nothing.
Yeah.
If I can't tell what it is based on what it looks like or what it's doing as a structure, then it's failing. Then it's not naturalistic. It's not ecological. It's just corporate architecture. And if it's corporate art made by an AI program or whatever, get it the fuck out of here. And it's a shame I say that on the solar punk pages, unless it's solar punk anarchist, and then they're just making kind of activist posts, and it's not really, there's not much futurism, but I guess that's the idea, to get away from futurism.
The aesthetic part. Yeah.
Get away from futurism.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well,
all right.
Let's
we
continue
got
along
our
with
buzz back up off the floor.
Complete with panoramic views. Speaking of unique locations, Rivian, the EV adventure vehicle company, is questioning how their EV charging infrastructure might also be more carefully considered. This begins with locations that deliver on the adventurous lifestyle of the demographic that they're targeting. They call it the Rivian Adventure Network. The closest one to me is in Benton Harbor, Michigan, which is a nearby popular hiking and beach location on the eastern shores of Lake Michigan. There's also channels on YouTube devoted to exploring the world's best EV charging stations. Seems like a number of them are in Europe, though. One of my favorites is Out of Spec Reviews.
Look, this is not some wholehearted endorsement of EVs as the righteous path for a sustainable future. Nor am I trying to greenwash a process that isn't quite as environmentally friendly as it seems at the first glance. Those are all valid issues.
What I'm trying to argue for is an attentiveness to our transportation infrastructure. Single-purpose infrastructure sucks, even if it is efficient. It's the same kind of thinking that gave us awful places like highway underpasses or vast power plant wastelands. Modern solutions for these situations turn underpasses into parks or museums, and power plants into ski slopes. Single-purpose, inhuman infrastructure is a byproduct of the 19th century thinking, and it isn't appropriate today.
I want to make sure that we've learned our lesson, that infrastructure like EV charging stations are better when paired with simultaneous considerations around the spatial, the social, and environmental impacts of our surroundings. While it seems like solely an engineering issue to solve, design plays a crucial role in the overall success of integrating new things like this into the fabric of our lives and the built environment at large.
This video is sponsored by Trade Coffee. I just received my bag of spare. Look, I love it in 450 units. The reward to effort upgrade your morning routine for a free bag of coffee with one section below. While you're there, check.
Hey.
Okay.
When you start a YouTube channel like the stockbroker, or not the stockbroker, the bank worker, you're working for advertisers now. Not really yourself.
That is
But
the sad truth.
I like that channel because that's at least an architect doing that kind of stuff, and he usually does end with the whole like, look, I just want people to care about design. That's why I'm talking about this. Actually, no, that's kind of all bullshit at the end of the day. That's his way of putting it. You know, he put it very diplomatically. I also like that he didn't like pet peeve is using the word concern. People have concerns that this is non-environmental. It's always a hand wave to not take a position or to not imply anything, to say that others have concerns. Not me, or a concern is not a concern could be something that is not reality. It's like you can be concerned.
It's very passive way of putting things. Yeah.
It's a way of saying like, well, they care about it, but maybe it's not something to worry about.
Maybe they should.
You know, it's the passive voice that journalists will use all the time, and it's why
people are saying,
people are saying the community has concerns about this development affecting their homes.
Some might argue.
There are concerns about the litter. There's more blatant.
Yeah, right.
Okay, time for one more, right?
Yeah, I think we got time for a short one. What are we thinking then?
The land tax is short.
A land value tax is the future.
Yeah.
Is that the one? All right, cool.
Well, there's lots of land tax videos.
Should we do the introduction? Introducing the land value tax. Maybe that'd be a better one.
Okay.
That's only 3 minutes.
Well, and any video is going to explain what it is.
Right. But I'm assuming this one's going to be even more entry level.
Yeah. So we're finishing up with the back to the policy line that that I was taking. Let's explore policies that make up a platform for a radical agenda. So we know what to fight for, and not just whatever is the low-hanging fruit or what people are throwing out or accepting.
All right, well, let's take a look.
How to become rich without lifting a finger. First, find a piece of land in the middle of nowhere. It won't be worth much, so buy it cheap. Now, if someone else was to build some roads and other infrastructure, their work has made your land more valuable. And then if some other people were to start building developments, like houses, shops and schools, your land is going to become even more valuable. Then, if the people who live there are good and hard working, and make a community that everyone wants to live in, the value of your land will go through the roof. And remember, you've made no changes to your land. All the work has been done by other people. Because if they were to go and leave it derelict, the value of the land would drop again. It's other people that make your land valuable and keep it that way. Big landowners gain value from public services and infrastructure. They also gain value from hard-working people and productive businesses. The public services are funded by taxes paid by these workers and businesses. Many of them also pay rent to a landowner. Hang on, stop. This all seems a bit one-sided, with some people doing all the work and others claiming all the benefit. What if we were to even things out a bit with a land value tax? By charging landowners a little bit more tax.
What was that?
They're using all the PowerPoint.
I know, it's like it reminds me of...
But hey, they're doing it. They're not just using B-roll from the
That's true.
service.
And it has
They
its
made
own
it.
little kitschy value to it as well. I like it, actually.
Yeah. And clip art.
will
though.
be
They
able
are
to
using
reduce
the
the
clip art.
burden
Clip art. Yeah, that's what I was the word I was searching for. Yeah.
on workers and businesses. And if the tax causes the value of the land to drop a little, we'll see a reduction in their rent as well. Much of our land is owned by just a few people. Their ancestors used to tax peasants for the privilege of living and working on the land. Nowadays they do pretty much the same thing with rent.
Yep.
Taxing landowners would not only be fair and progressive, it would encourage development and growth, help protect the environment. There's so many good reasons. I think we should do it.
Why should we be beggars with the palace in our hands? God made the land for the people.
That was fun. I don't know how well it explained what exactly a land value tax is, but
It certainly is a scathing indictment of rent seeking.
True.
Or like, why just tax land when you can redistribute it?
Right.
Or nationalize it.
There you go. That was good. I guess we got time for the last one on land value tax.
It's been a long time since I think I saved that one. I said a long time ago. I thought it actually was longer and explained the land value tax a bit more, but I think it's just going into. Remember, the land value tax is only taxing the land, and so the land's value,
not improvements,
is right. Exactly, it's at that same value, that original low value, not the value of all the other, added social worker values.
Yeah.
So
meant to stop those land speculators from.
Yeah, stop. It's basically an anti-speculation tool, and it's an anti abandonment tool. Here in Albany, we have a problem with vacant properties, and one of the things the city says when asked about, getting, they kind of see it just more as like, we respect all private property ownership. We just want the property owners to maintain some level of quality,
right?
And using regulations, and basically they just have a stick model of using fines, but they point out like, well, some of these properties, like especially the vacant ones, we can't find the owner. We don't know, like we don't know who to find. There's no one to find. It's some shell company, or it's someone who's gone, can't be reached. Now, of course, me, if I was on the council, I'd be like, well, why don't we just give it to the housing authority then?
Right. It sounds like a good opportunity to seize that land, because who's going to stop you?
Really? I mean, I guess if we seized it, maybe the owner would show up.
Well, I mean, if there's a policy in place saying, hey, we can't find you for a year. You forfeit your title.
That's all. Yeah. That would be the compromise, right? Yeah. But hey, it goes for the same principle of, if you're too big to fail and you fail, then that's when you get nationalized. As long as you're doing capitalism the way people like it to occur, then fine. But as soon as you fuck up, you get nationalized, and we just over the assumption,
such a missed opportunity.
Working from a Marxist place of, you're gonna fuck up sometime.
That's right.
There's got to be a crisis in profitability for you.
And then that should be the bailout should not just be for free. That's such a such a neoliberal.
Because after all, it shouldn't be the people of the city or workers who suffer for your. I guess usually it's the workers are blamed because if people weren't buying for your product, or you weren't being profitable, it's because the workers weren't buying from you. So it's like it's their fault that they don't. That's why you have to support local business or big business. You have to support business. If you don't support it, then you only have yourself to blame when the workers get fired for when things fail.
Right.
Just like how in 2006 it was, the average mortgage holder who wanted a home, they got, by the establishment anyway.
Shouldn't have taken those predatory loans. They should have known better. Yeah.
Democrats didn't do that, but they didn't have to. They just say nothing because they weren't blaming Wall Street either. They were
Right.
giving them out.
Yeah.
So your actions say that, who you really blame. You don't say the bad things, but your actions say, oh yeah, the poor don't need welfare, or they shouldn't, people don't really want to be on welfare. They want to work hard. That's what Biden says. And
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay.
All right, let's get into it.
Land value tax is a tax on the unimproved value of land. LVT is favored by a wide variety of economists, libertarian Milton Friedman, who called it the least bad tax.
The least bad tax is the property tax on the unimproved value of land, the Henry George argument.
Adam Smith, Thomas Paine, David Ricardo, Paul Samuelson, and socialist J. Stitt Wilson. The tax upon land values is the most just and equal of all taxes. Since World War II, 80% of the developed world's rising house prices are due to rising land values. Economists prefer the land value tax because land is just about the only commodity that's essentially fixed, which means the tax cannot be passed on to tenants because a landlord would have already been charging the maximum profit they think they could get. In other words, a land value tax doesn't suffer from the same problem of other taxes, where if you increase a tax on a good or service, it means fewer companies can afford to start or stay open, which means less supply and therefore higher prices. Since the amount of land is fixed, a land value tax is a genuinely progressive tax, in that the owners of valuable land pay more, therefore reducing inequality. LVT also reduces land speculation. Speculators are parasites on a community. They buy up land so after a neighborhood works and works and works to increase its value, they then sell their land for a profit.
While you do the hard work of improving this neighborhood, my lot is increasing in value. And when you improve your property, neighbor, I know your property taxes go up. That's part of the deal. That's why I only invest in raw land. I can just sit here for years, paying really low taxes, while you all make the neighborhood into someplace special, and the value of my vacant lot goes up and up and up.
A land value tax reduces their profit, which leads to fewer speculators and therefore lower land prices. More buyers would therefore be people who want.
So when I look at Zillow for home shopping of myself, I noticed there are some lots in Albany that are in very desirable corners, and they're vacant lots, and in the rough parts of town, vacant lots are 5 to 15 grand. They really should be less than that. I think the land bank sells them for like $500.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, that's what they really should be like, because if they're unimproved, like they don't even have a water hookup, So anyway,
okay.
you can't even have like a garden there until you get a water
Sure.
hookup. But you have this land that was like the cost of actually a fixer upper. It was like 50 to 80 grand for the lot. And that's where I'm like, what the hell? But this is where you have houses, the average home price being, $250,000 to $300,000, and even in Albany, but only in the rough neighborhoods does it become affordable, which is where I'm going to be looking. And I'm not going to complain if there's litter or some gray market stuff happening, because it's like, well, that's the price I'm paying, and that's the price my friend paid. I mean, he needed something that was a deal, a warehouse building. He tried all kinds of different options, but there were many people who just wouldn't sell to him. They wouldn't even give him an offer, or they wouldn't even accept his offer. And
really,
yeah, he was hitting walls over and over and over again. Until he got to the Legal Women Voters, which is the building that he bought from.
Oh.
It was their office, and I don't know if they needed to get out of there, but they didn't need an office anymore.
Sure.
And they weren't big enough or whatever. Yeah, I was
there's no need for brick and mortar space.
I just wanted to mention that vacant lots can be pretty. Yeah, this is a real thing. Vacant lots can be pretty expensive in an urban area.
Absolutely.
Even without the house being there.
Mm-hmm.
Want to live there and or develop the property into something that would actually add value. LVT therefore undeniably leads to more economic development, jobs, sustainability, and affordable housing. LVT exists in Denmark, Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, and Pennsylvania. But if it's so great, then why hasn't it been implemented in more places? 2 words: power and money. Homeowners are a powerful voting bloc, and speculators are a powerful lobbying group. They have a self-interest in making land and housing extremely expensive. A lot of pensions and hedge funds are also built upon housing prices going up and up and up. So if you were them, how could you create an artificial housing bubble? For one, you make lending extremely easy so as to increase demand, so that anyone who wants a home can, quote, buy one. It's normal in America for a 20-something to be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And then secondly, you discourage housing construction so as to decrease supply via high property taxes on improvements and strict zoning laws. This may come as a shock to you. But the media and academia do not have your best interest at heart. 2008 wasn't a financial crash, it was a market readjustment. If the federal government didn't step in to repatch the bubble they created, then housing prices would be much lower today, therefore benefiting the vast majority of the population. Housing is just about the only commodity where people actively celebrate its rising prices, which is particularly heinous when you consider it's an economic necessity. Imagine cheering on the rising cost of bread during a famine. Yet this is exactly what our influence industrial complex does. But I have hope for America, because I believe speculators' unprecedented success will bring about their unmitigated downfall. Ideally, it would just take explaining the benefits of LVT for more local, state, and national governments to implement it. A rational approach, so as to not penalize existing homeowners too much, would be to phase it in via split rate taxation, where the land value portion of a property tax would over time be evaluated higher than the improvement value. But this approach has thus far largely failed, because as soon as homeowners hear a new tax, their prefrontal cortex shuts down and they start foaming from the mouth. Peace, land, brains. You see, reforming property taxes is a political high-wire act, because even if a local politician is successful in implementing it, perhaps through a tax cut like a universal property tax abatement, whereby the improvement portion of a property tax could be cut more than the land portion is raised, then in the future, as property taxes likely rise, rich speculators and unimproved lot owners will protest the loudest. Taxation is often about plucking the goose without too much fuss. And for the record, guys, I don't blame homeowners for pursuing the American dream. You can benefit from the system while
They're
advocating
just doing
for
it
its
on the
reform.
backs
But nonetheless,
of the bottom 50%.
Right. Yeah.
So, no, I do blame them for buying into that and thinking, is this an ethically viable way of ensuring my retirement?
Well, that's the problem, is that it's used as the main investment vehicle for most American
So I'm
families.
not really empathetic to, I'm doing what's in my interest. You got to figure out yourself.
At the same time, it is the system that rewards this behavior, though.
Right.
So
but
it's
once you know about it, or let's talk to a socialist and break the matrix, so to speak, with them. So it's like, okay, you have a choice. You can either keep your retirement fund that's based on rising housing prices, or we can have an equitable society, at least a little bit better, and then there won't be so many homeless people bothering you. It's like you want one, you want both. You want the homeless people to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
You want poor people to have a place themselves away from you. But you also want your 401k and your own high valued house that you can mortgage. And it's tough pointing that out in casual conversation, but I'm always the downer who will at least make an attempt at it.
Yeah, but that's definitely true. There's a rich lady that I work for, like 28th floor penthouse, just this beautiful condo, and all she does is complain about seeing homeless people every time she goes downtown. And like, I really want to say to her, Maybe we should give some housing to those people, but yeah, I don't think.
No, I want to be hopeful. These downward conversations do have an effect. It just takes time for them to show up, and I've been surprised when, like, say, my mother will make a decision that I wouldn't expect from her, or she makes a decision that my brother. God, so being so fucking personal here. This is why I don't actually share these videos much in my own circle. This is my my therapy sessions. Sorry, Zach.
Sure. Oh, no problem. Happy.
But my
happy to serve.
All right, people in my life are affected by the things I say.
Yeah, and that's true. And you never know.
Maybe not on Facebook, because that's not really a real human interaction.
It's not a real place, yeah.
And so you got to just get out there and have those social circles.
But yeah, but great point that you never know what kind of seeds you plant in people's minds and how they end up affecting them.
I can talk to the anarchists in my life, and they could maybe think a little more statist. It's like we're not going to have political power if we're not thinking like a state.
Right. Yeah.
There's a book.
Responsibility to advocate for its reform. And whether or not the average homeowner actually benefits from perpetuating the status quo is debatable when you consider how it will end at Detroit. Now, realistically, the reason I'm hopeful is not because I think a lot of homeowners will be persuaded, but because I think enough renters can be educated. In other words, I have hope because of demographic and technological changes. Renters are rising. As we make up more and more of the voting population, then, quote, Generation Rent will have more political power to implement LVT. And then as a final turn of the wheel, our feudalistic system is telling people, my way or the highway. And many of us are choosing the highway. I believe one day there'll be more mobile homeowners than traditional homeowners.
Okay.
Did you know mobile homes don't count toward property taxes? Think about the long-term implications. Mobile homes are becoming more energy efficient, and unlike traditional homes, are built off-site via low-cost, quality mass manufacturing. With more people working from home, families shrinking, and the population aging, it only makes sense that the mobile home trend will continue to accelerate. We may live in a future where every home is to some degree mobile, because as manufacturing methods improve, there's nothing in physics to prevent this convenience. Mobile skyscrapers. LVT is just about the only tax that can't be evaded. So, if property taxes continue to be structured the way they are, i.e. heavily penalize improvements in construction, then it doesn't make financial sense to renovate an old property, therefore paying even more in taxes annually, when you could just tear down the old property and replace it with a brand new mobile home, whereby you'd end up paying nothing more than a de facto land value tax.
Okay.
With more and more of the population living in apartments and mobile homes, it'll mean LVT is OTW.
Well, that took an interesting turn at the end there.
I like that. I like the cut of this guy's jib.
Yeah.
He's like, it's rare, but to see a video maker who is got humor, and it's romantic, and it's futurist.
Yeah.
Optimistic, so to speak.
Maybe
for very logical reasons, not just bullshit reasons. But the mobile park, I remember when going through the rezone effort in Albany, the mobile home is not allowed at all in Albany.
Oh.
And hearing that phrase kind of brings to mind like why that is. Why a mobile home park? I mean, my first instinct was practicality. It's like there's no land in Albany that should be a mobile home park. This is a urban grid city, right?
Yeah,
but I'm thinking, if this is the future and people are going to be moving their things in and out, maybe there should be a block in Albany that's specifically designed to have mobile homes fit into it, and then have like amenity, communal building there. But yeah, putting a mobile home in a lot in Albany is not allowed. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it could be conditional use. Maybe it's something to fight for. It would be but again, yeah, the whole thing about like, there's these interests in the media. Yes, but there's an organizable population. Now, the problem, the challenges are that renters move around because of rising rents, but also just you move like the mobile home, you move almost based on the convenience of, well, it's easier to move to
necessity
across
as
the
well,
river or here. It's not really based on cost as much as this is just where I want to be, or more friends. But yeah, sometimes it's cost.
Yeah.
But
yes,
yeah,
that does make them harder to organize if in and out and all over the place.
this is where IWW style unions are definitely like more attractive, and I'm a member for that reason. It's just that we can be anywhere in upstate New York, and you can be a member and doing projects with a few others. Though so there were 5 other Albany County members that we were put into an email affinity group, just 5 of us, and we haven't had too much communication. My main task was to try to see if we could meet up, and I've kind of failed in that, just by lack of response. It's just like, come on, guys. But it's a matter of checking it. I use Proton Mail for my IWW stuff, and I only check that like once a month.
Oh, sure.
So, yeah, but once a month I look to see if they responded. Oh yeah, let's meet up. But I don't get that, which kind of sucks because it's like, well, we're not far. We should be able to talk to each other in person. And because we're not going to do any real IWW type project if we're not doing some stuff in person. At least that's my thinking.
Yeah, right.
And these are definitely the type of people I could probably see as future housemates. So, but maybe I need to offer that out.
Yeah.
So we're out of time. We're at the end. We sort out lists for next time. So I won't. I don't know if I'll dig more, but potential platform planks. Don't know what to look at. We've covered alternative currencies, right?
Yes, we have. Yeah.
We've covered a
pretty thorough job at that.
I think I want to see if there's any co-op law videos.
Well, that'd be great.
Cover that, because that's not.
I myself would like to learn more about that.
We talk about well, actually no. Richard Wolff will obviously have episodes and videos about certain co-op promoting policies. We could go into that. Maybe we use one of his videos. I don't think so though. I want to see what else there is out there and see about some shareable videos.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. All right, man.
All right.
Thanks for offering me this.
As always, great time, and look forward to chatting with you more.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one. And stay, avoid heat stroke.
Oh, I'll do my best. It's cool right now, but it's going back up into the 90s tomorrow. So, yeah. Gonna be key.
All right. Good night.
Till next time. So that was Dan Blatt of the 3 Left Show. I'm going to link his stuff right now so you can go check out all the things that he's doing. We meet every couple weeks to discuss kind of usually whatever is on our minds. And yeah, it's been quite a journey we've taken, actually, exploring all these different leftist concepts. Let's see now. Who do we got? Not too many people. I don't think we'll do a raid unless there's anyone in chat that has anyone specific they would like to see. Now is your chance to shout it out. We do raids on Twitch. I am broadcasting to Kick. I suppose you can do raids there, but I've not found any good political channels there. So we'll just avoid that for now. Otherwise, see if I'll be up for streaming tomorrow night. I really want to get back in the saddle with A People's History of the United States. I want to finish that book before the end of the year, so we can get on to more stuff. So I'm going to try and do it tomorrow night. But otherwise, I will see you next Sunday. So have a great night. Actually, you know what? One more thing. We'll just find someone to shout out on Twitch without doing a specific raid. Let's see who's on right this moment. Let's see. What? Okay, not gonna do modern day debates because they're debating some BS right now. Looks like Jet Extremist is looking at President Sunday. trans issues. So we'll do a raid. It, you know, might be a 2-person raid, but I guess that's better than nothing. So we will do Jet Extremis, and I will see you all tomorrow, hopefully. Thank you all for watching. See you soon.